Hello everybody and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again today, and this is part 2 of that video that I started yesterday with the 1944 West Virginia proposal. This ship, I think, will actually satisfy all the USN Battleship players who've wanted a Tier 7 premium. What this is Scheme 16. It was one of the planned sort of design studies for the North Carolina class battleship. And one of the design ideas was to have 12 14-inch guns. Now this ship, I think, fits perfectly into Tier 7 because while she has certain advantages over the Colorado does have certain advantages over her as well. Let's start with the first major complaint about US standard type battleships, the fact that they're too darn slow. Well, Scheme 16 will have 27 knot speed, as she is basically the forefather of what ended up being the 16-inch gunned North Carolina. So she definitely will alleviate some of that annoyance with that 21 knot speed. And that will basically be a major advantage for this particular ship. However, as she is a longer ship, her turning radius is going to be quite a bit bigger. And essentially, since she's about the same size as the North Carolina, in-game I'm going to estimate a 760 meter turning radius for Scheme 16. Colorado is going to be at 640. Furthermore, this particular ship design did have rather poor torpedo damage reduction. So the Scheme 16 is probably going to be around 19% base. Colorado is at 37%. And this is going to be quite substantial, as the Colorado's advantage in terms of maneuverability and being able to resist damage from torpedoes is definitely going to be superior to Scheme 16, but Scheme 16 is faster and it's going to allow her to reposition easier than the Colorado. A little sort of pros and cons for both of these two ships. In terms of survivability, HP pool wise, these two ships would be probably pretty similar. Scheme 16 probably a touch more, maybe just over 60,000, while a Colorado maxed out is at 59,300. In terms of the armor protection, Scheme 16 is obviously going to be at Tier 7, so 25mm bows, 305mm main belt, which is the same as the North Carolina. And if you compare that to the Colorado 25mm bow, 343mm main belt armor. So Scheme 16, touch bit more HP, but armor is a little bit poorer than the Colorado. Firepower is probably where things are going to get kind of interesting. So Scheme 16, I think, with the 12 356mm guns, first thing is probably going to need a new and improved shell, which is going to give a better penetration compared to Arizona and New Mexico. So I think that would be the first thing we'll probably need to have, because the Colorado's 406s, they do really, really well. The 356s obviously have a weakness. They can't overmatch 25mm of armor. So this ship has to use its speed, has to get into the right positions, has to really do that. While with the Colorado, you got the 406s, you overmatch stuff. You overmatch other battleships at the tier, that's no issue. Scheme 16, because it's going to have so many more shells compared to the Colorado, I do expect to see Sigma values probably around 1.8, and maybe if she really underperforms significantly, maybe they'll push it to 1.9. If she overperforms, then maybe it'll go down to like 1.7, right? At this particular tier, Tier 7, you do see ships with lots of guns that have relatively poor Sigma. Lyon immediately comes to mind. And it can work, you just have to position her correctly. Again, 27 knots means that she is not going to play like the really, really slow Colorado. I think Scheme 16, again, works really, really well. She is going to fit in Tier 7 without overwhelming the Colorado's advantages, right? She's not going to come in and immediately take over, but at the same time, she's going to offer sort of interesting enough gameplay where she's going to be able to be something different at the tier. She's going to cover over some of the problems that USN Battleship players have had at around Tier 7, where they're just so sick and tired of 21 knots. She'll be able to take care of that. She'll be faster. But, you know, her guns are just not going to be as great as the Colorados. But sheer number of shells in the right positions, and she is still going to be very, very capable of doing good damage. Moving on, taking a look at the AA, and I think the AAs were, again, you can have sort of interesting numbers. Again, we do have to keep in mind that there's a future CV rework coming, so, you know, how this changes could be very interesting. But for now, let's say Scheme 16 has really, really good long-range AA, 127mm guns, 121 DPS for now. Colorado's 127 millimeter guns, a lot less capable, 58 DPS. But Colorado has a lot better mid-range, a 161 DPS since 40s. Well, Scheme 16 was planned sort of in a time when they were mostly looking at the 28 millimeter guns, the Chicago pianos. They're not very good, 68 DPS there. But of course, close range, the two ships are sort of comparable, with Scheme 16 having a little bit more of the 20 millimeters, so 166 DPS versus 133 DPS on the Colorado. And this will make two ships kind of interesting. One's got slightly better long and close range, while the other one excels more at the mid-range AA. Depending on how AA interacts with the new CB rework, these AA layouts would work, I think, quite well, with each ship having its own sort of special flavor when coming to deal with aircraft. Finally, we've got the concealment that we got to talk about. And here, because remember, Scheme 16 is supposed to be about maneuvering, getting into these advantageous positions, and shooting at people in positions where they're not ready or they're not comfortable. So she does have to have a slight concealment advantage, and I think here, Scheme 16 will probably have a 13-kilometer surface detect. Colorado is going to be a little bit more at 14 kilometers. Scheme 16 is going to have that advantage to be able to get herself into those positions with her speed and then unleashing her guns, while the Colorado can just be a brute and just overmatch stuff. And finally, in terms of consumables, Scheme 16's consumables are just going to be all standard. Standard DCP, standard repairs, standard spotter fighter. Colorado, standard DCP, has the improved heal and the spotter fighter. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the stat comparison. I mentioned the speed thing, which is really the big issue, right? We really need a Tier 7 USN battleship that doesn't go 21 knots. Well, here it is. She's also going to be a ship that I don't think overpowers the Colorado, right? And one of the things about premium ships I'm not starting to like is, okay, here's the new thing and it's just that much better than everything else. It's like, well, what's the point of that? It's just power creeping everything. This ship, I don't think power creeps. She's going to be quite reasonable, but she's going to offer a playstyle that's just different, right? Colorado is this brute that can overmatch stuff. This ship requires a little bit more finesse, requires better positioning in order to take advantage of the significant increase in the number of shells you can throw. And then you can really punish people's broadsides. Now, the reason why I think this ship also is a really good option for wargaming is because, well, they've done a lot of the work already. She's basically the North Carolina, just with different guns. And for them, it'll be easy to just take the North Carolina model, take off the turrets, and then replace them with the quadruple turrets, right? The armor profile of these two ships are really, really similar. In terms of a lot of the other specifications, also similar. The A guns have to be changed, but I mean, that's just removing some and then repositioning some, and then using other assets that are already there, like the 28 millimeter guns are already modeled and everything, so they just have to put that in, right? All in all, I think it's maybe not the most insane amount of work. It's pretty reasonable, and they can get the ship out relatively quickly, and that's really important because a lot of USN Battleship players have been waiting a very long time to have a premium Tier 7 USN Battleship that doesn't go 21 knots. And I think this one's it. Anyways, this is just my idea, my proposal. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Agree, disagree, think it's a good idea? I don't know. You have your own suggestions? Leave those there too, because I'm going to send this to someone at Wargaming, and who knows, right? Yeah, anything could happen. And of course, they'll read your comments, and maybe they'll get some ideas from you guys as well. Anyways, folks, it's getting super late here. I do have to work tomorrow, so good night, take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to all of you again tomorrow.